In this chapter, we require a concept of current. Then what is current? You already studied in a school also what is current. When electron flow from one place to another place, it constitutes a current. It is not necessary to be electron only has to flow from one place to another place. Maybe one more kind of charge, that is positive charge, also can move from one place to another place. That also constitutes a current. So electron that is negatively charged, if it is flowing from one place to another place, it constitutes a current, and holes can move from one place to another place, can constitute a current. If number of electrons moving, more number of electrons are moving, then more current. More number of holes are flowing from one place to another place, more current. So electron is negative charge and holes are positively charged. In this chapter, we are using holes, that is positively charged, and electrons, that is negatively charged. So this is about the current. Now, what is resistance? Resistance, the dictionary meaning of resistance is opposition, right? Now, I have a conductor or any material you can consider. When electron is flowing in it, that produces a current, right? That produces a current. When electron is flowing in it, what happens? This material itself start opposing. The material start opposing the electrons. It doesn't allow the current to flow, that is electrons to flow in it. And that property of the material is called as resistance. It is similar to the example I will going to consider here. This is a surface, plain surface, and this is the water which is flowing. If there is no resistance, there is no stones in between the flow of water, the water can easily flow. There is no opposition, right? Therefore the water can flow very easily, very fast, it can move. But if you just put some stone in it, there is stones, there is resistances, these are called as resistances. Now, after putting these resistances, what happens? For the water particles, it is difficult to flow from one place to another place, and this is called as resistances we are going to call. The same thing happens even in a material. The material opposes the electrons in it. When electron try to flow, it start opposing. Greater the opposition, lesser the current. So this is the resistance in water, and these are the opposition for the current, that is called as resistance, electrical resistance. In the last class, we studied about the current and resistance. One more concept, that is called as resistivity. Remember, resistivity is just a resistance of the unit cube. A resistance of a unit cube. Suppose if you have a conductor, this is a cube. If this is a cube, the resistance of this, that is called as resistivity. Remember that. What is resistance you studied in a last class? The resistance means the stones in a water, there is also a resistance. So if the water is flowing, these stones start opposing it in the opposite direction, right? And that is called as resistance. and here the material itself start opposing the flow of electrons in it. That is called as resistance. Resistivity means just cut it and form a cube. The resistance of that is opposition of this particular cube for the flow of electrons in it. That is called as resistivity. So remember that point. Now let me go back to the same classification. This classification. Here conductors you studied, the current can flow in both the direction, and insulators, that is current cannot flow in this direction and in the opposite direction. Both the side it is blocked. Both the side it is blocked. Now semiconductors you studied, the current can flow in this particular direction, but in the reverse direction it is not allowed. So this is about the semiconductor we studied, but now we are classifying these based on concept of resistivity and conductivity. Resistivity means opposition to the flow of electric current. Now for the conductor, the resistivity is very low. That means the material will not oppose the flow of electrons in it. That is flow of current in it. That is very less opposition. So resistivity is very low. That means conductivity is very high. It can conduct very well. It is a good conductor. And coming to the one more material called as insulators. In insulator, it cannot allow the current in it. That means what? It is not conducting. Conductivity is almost zero. There is no conduction. That means resistivity is very, very high. That is, resistivity is very high for this. Very high resistivity. Represented by letter rho. Resistivity is very high. And coming to the semiconductor, the resistivity of this semiconductor is not very low and not very high. Not very low as that of conductors and not very high as that of insulators. So the resistivity of this semiconductor lies between conductor and insulators. Remember that. So this is a classification of these materials based on conductivity and resistivity. So resistivity is very low, resistivity is very high, the resistivity is lies between conductor and insulators. That is why we are using the term called as semiconductors. These are not conductors, these are semiconductors. And conductivity is very high and conductivity is very low, almost zero here, and conductivity is here lies between conductors and insulators. That is called as semiconductors.